Hello and welcome to the Bold Leadership Story Show, where we talk about experiences shaping exceptional lives. And today, I have the honor of speaking with Tobie Love. Tobie is a branch manager at CrossCountry Mortgage here in Temecula. And I've got a little bit of a story about her. She was a Navy veteran, a wife, a mother of three. And you said you've been married now for 23 years.
No,
Congratulations.
23. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. You joined the Corps in 2016, and you're a level 3 graduate. Now, what's CORE, C-O-R-E?
So CORE is a coaching program for realtors and lenders. And it's a pretty rigorous program for sure. Most all of the participants are in the top 1% of the nation in both of those categories.
Okay, very good. Let's see, you became a branch manager in 2019 at CrossCountry Mortgage and an internal coach for LOs. I assume that's loan officers.
Loan officers, yes, sir.
I did a little bit of that way back when.
Mhm.
And let's see, you're $700 million plus in loans. That's admirable.
Thank you.
Top 1% of loan officers nationwide, over 22 years in the business. So lots of experience, and you have evening and weekend hours. So you're available. I was looking at your website and some of your recent testimonials, customers that have bothered to, they loved what you're doing so much. They wrote in a little note and wow, you're doing great.
Thank you, sir.
And that you can close in 10 days, which is phenomenal.
Pretty fast.
Yeah. So Tobie, what was your start to get to all this success? What was it that got you going? What's the seed that's grown now into this great business that you're operating here?
Awesome. Well, I didn't grow up thinking I want to be a mortgage loan officer. In all honesty, I didn't even really know what a mortgage loan officer was until I went to buy my first home shortly after my husband and I had gotten married. And then, get married, buy a house, have kids. We were on that journey. And
Right?
I had just gotten out of
Hopefully
the
in that
military.
order, right?
Yeah, right. It doesn't always work out quite like that, but it can be, you can put things in different order sometimes. Buy a house, get married, then have kids, or buy a house, have kids, get married,
As long as it's buy a
whatever
house
works.
first.
Yes, yes. So we were, my husband was still in the Navy. I had actually just gotten out of the Navy. I was going to school to be a court reporter at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And we came up to Marietta and we looked at some new build homes and we just fell in love. We put our little $1,000 deposit down, and a week later we came back and met with the loan officer. And that week was the pivotal moment in my history of being a mortgage loan originator.
Why is that? What was it that
Well, so my loan officer had given me a list of things that I needed to gather. And for whatever reason, I was super intrigued by this list of things. I've always loved numbers.
Mhm.
And so I started reading up on the process, and I'm like, okay, well, he needs paycheck stubs because they're going to figure out our debt to income ratio. And it was something that just came very natural to me. And what ended up happening that week is I remember going to work, going to school, and then coming home, and then for probably 2 or 3 hours looking on the computer to figure out, okay, what are they looking at? What are they analyzing? And just really, delving into that and understanding the process. So at the end of that week, when I met with my loan officer, I handed over this package and I said, here's what we're qualified for. Here's what I've estimated the payment at. Here's a list of appraisers that we can use. Now, at that point in time, you could still pick an appraiser. That's not that way now, but 20 years ago, you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's everything. And he just kind of sat there and looked at me for a moment.
It's
And
like
I
you
wasn't,
probably never had a client
yeah,
do all that, right?
I wasn't 100% sure what to think. And then he offered me a job. And my
Yeah.
husband's kicking me under the
She's a
desk and
natural.
saying, you know, take it, take it, take it. He didn't even know what I made at that point in time, but he said, I'll give you $2 more an hour than whatever you're making now, and I'll pay your gas for you to drive up here until your house is ready. And then here we are. The rest is history. And I've always been in love with this business. Um, to me, getting people into homes is changing lives. It's where people, you know, have their best and worst moments of their life.
Mm.
And so it is really something that's truly special, and creating those experiences for our clients is something that's really, really important to me. Is 65% of all mortgage transactions go bad, and
65%.
65%. And when I say go bad, that doesn't necessarily mean they don't make it to the end. It just means that 65% of the people didn't have a good experience.
Okay.
And I believe that revolves around lack of communication. I'm not a miracle worker. I don't have a magic pill. I can't change or do anything to a credit or income when it comes to me other than analyze. And
Mm.
here's the big piece. And I always, I talk to people about this, talk to my clients about this, talk to my loan officers about this, is when a client comes to us, the situation is what it is. We don't have any impact to change that situation at that very moment. Now we can guide them. We can say, you can do this or you could do that so that you could be approved down the line. But the information is already there. It's already set. So if you tell a client that they can't qualify or be pre-approved right now, but if they do this, 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 and this, then they can be pre-approved 6 months from now, versus telling somebody they're pre-approved and then they get out there, they house hunt, they find the perfect house, and then go, oh, oops, you're not pre-approved, right?
Yeah.
The data never changed. There's not anything that changed that caused them to not be approved. It was the review portion, or even the disclosure portion, right? Sometimes that occurs if a client doesn't disclose everything, but
Mhm.
the data is always the same. So it's the timing of the delivery of the news. So before you're out there looking versus when you're in escrow, totally two different things, but that all revolves around communication
Yeah.
and
A little
making
more
sure that,
pressure when escrow's going.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
how does that, how did you get to be really good at that? What was it that, or what is it that you're doing now to keep you, you know, razor sharp on those skills? And what do you do to keep your team up to, lead your team to be so good at that?
Systems, processes, and then just being human. Um, I, I think the third thing is the most important, is
Uh-huh.
we always have to remember that people are in the biggest, possibly the biggest transaction of their whole entire life.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if you're not technologically savvy, or you're not, you don't do this day in and day out, it can be frustrating, right? So extra love, extra care. That's one of the big things. I just had a couple clients in yesterday, and they were really distraught. They were not being very nice to myself or the team. And so I had to stop for a minute. I'm like, okay, why is this? Because I haven't done anything different with them than I've done anybody else. And so when I really drilled down to it, basically it was that they were not technologically savvy. They were having a challenge getting the things that we needed them to get. Like they needed a transaction history from the end date of their bank statement to present. And so once I figured that out, and I said, you know what, come down to the office, let's jump in. I'll help you. You log in, I'll print it out for you, and just go in that extra little bit to
Mhm.
help them. And then they were fine. After that, they were great.
Okay.
So it's just,
So they were
you,
frustrated about it, but to get to that resolution, you had to sit down and listen and
yeah.
not take it personal. Just, they were
Hmm.
frustrated. It's
Yeah. You
totally
can't take
human,
anything
right?
personal in this business.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's great. So where do you see, um, that when you were a kid, what was it? I mean, obviously you're really good at what you're doing right now, and there are certain attributes I think that
Mhm.
you have that make you particularly good at this job. What was it when you were growing up, maybe that helped you to become who you are today? What kind of things happened to you?
So I think about that sometimes, and you know, I I I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I don't know for
Yeah.
sure. Here's what I can tell you about it. Um, I was average. I didn't have wonderful grades in school. I had, B's, A's and B's, but mostly B's.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was in the band. Um,
Oh yeah. What instrument did you play?
I played the drums,
Okay.
bass drum. I
Uh-huh.
was really good at the xylophone as well. And the one thing that I can tell you is that if I loved it, I was super passionate about it.
Okay.
So I think that when I love something, those are the things I gravitate to, and I just go all in with, everything. I've always been able to tell in, along the way, like when I really didn't love stuff, I just minimal effort. But if
Uh-huh.
I really loved it, then it was maximum effort,
Okay.
which is why I think, finding something in life that we really, really love to do allows us to put maximum effort. Because who wants to put maximum effort into something they don't love to do?
Yeah, well, you can do it for a little while, but
Yeah.
after a bit of time, it starts to wear on you.
Yeah.
Can't do it. And so you've been doing this work for 20 plus years now, right?
Just literally hit the 22-year mark 8 years ago or 8 days ago.
What did you do in the Navy?
I did a few things in the Navy. My main thing was legal yeoman. So in civilian world, that would be like a paralegal. I also was a landing signalman enlisted, so an LSC. So the best way that I can describe it is this. If you've ever watched Top Gun and you see the people out there with the yellow jackets are and they're directing, the F-18s, the F-16s, the
You're on
helicopters.
the deck of the aircraft carrier?
So I wasn't stationed on an aircraft carrier. I was stationed on a smaller ship. So we just had helicopters there. But at
Okay.
my duty station prior to that, it was actually out on San Clemente Island. And if you probably never been there because it's a military base,
Right.
but that is, it's what they call an outlying landing field.
Uh-huh.
So the landing field, it looks like it's lit up like a carrier, and all the F-18s and 16s and all whatever, planes we had would practice there. And then they'd come in and they'd refuel. And so I would be the LSC for them when they came into the landing field.
Okay, so you're like directing them in and moving them
Getting them to the
along
right spot.
and chocking the wheels
Yeah. And then fueling them up.
and fueling them up. Awesome. So
Yeah.
how was that experience? What was it that you loved about that?
Oh gosh, it was an amazing experience. There is not one thing in the world I would change about it. I'll be honest, when I went in, the only reason I picked the Navy was because of Top Gun. In sixth grade, I
Okay.
decided I was going into the Navy after I watched Top Gun.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, I went in right out after high school. And I have been all over the world. I've been in the Middle East. I've been to Singapore, Japan, Australia, Thailand, um, Dubai, so many places I can't even, name them all. So that was an amazing experience.
Uh-huh.
As a young sailor, as a young female sailor,
Hmm.
um, when I got stationed on the USS Rushmore, which was the first ship that I was stationed on, actually the only ship, but I was San Clemente Island, USS Rushmore, and then a couple small like boot camp and then school in between. But um, they had just been fitted to bring females on board.
Okay.
So that ship's crew didn't have any females on board. And it was just when they were starting to integrate females onto the U.S. Navy ships, which would have been back in 1997.
So I'm showing a picture of the
Prior,
ship now.
yeah,
Is that her?
That is her, and she is over in she's in I think Sasebo now, and she's getting ready to be decommissioned if she hasn't already been.
Uh-huh. So we
So
would have
that
seen
ship
you
was,
on the back on the
yeah,
stern.
right back there. See where that kind of X is, where your mouse
Yep.
is? That's
Yep.
exactly where I was at.
Right in there.
Yep.
Wow. And I bet at times that deck was going and the
Oh
wind
yeah.
was blowing and those helicopters were trying to figure out how to land.
Yep. And I
I
was
bet.
trying to figure out how to not get blown off the deck.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That must have been really exciting.
It was. You know what? It definitely was. An amazing time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Little adventure. So what was it about that experience that, is there anything that you're bringing to what you're doing now? And how does that affect the experience your customers have?
Well, I definitely, the systems and the structure is a huge piece of it.
Uh-huh.
And being in the Navy, I think I've always been extremely organized. It just enhanced those organizational skills. And then also, the things that we do to be able to cater to our clients. Like, okay, so on my little bio, one of the things we say is we're available nights and weekends.
Right.
Well, that's not all me. That's myself and my team, Caitlin and Emily.
Okay.
And the way that we have that set up is kind of like an on-call schedule, a duty schedule is what we'd call it in the military.
Uh-huh.
So taking some of those things from the military and applying them in the business to cater to our clients is is one of the things that I've done, and how that military experience has, pushed over to my mortgage career.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the Navy, I always wanted to be the best of the best. Was absolutely passionate about being in the Navy, and working hard. And there's just not, it, it's different from the civilian world, I think, in a lot of ways. And there's also a few things that I've had to change a little bit, when I transitioned, because in the military there's not a lot of emotion. It's like you just get it done.
Mm-hmm.
In the civilian world, a little bit different. I had to learn to be a little bit softer than I was,
Okay.
um, when I transitioned, because it's different. But I still use, there was always a plan of the day. And I have a plan of the day to this day. I
So it's
run
the
my
habits and the
household.
discipline to do
Mhm.
have the structure and follow that path that
Yep,
gives you the basics for success.
it 100% does.
So how did you develop your current process right now?
Current process would be a few different ways. So one is, knowing I had to have structures and systems. A lot of the process came from the core,
Okay.
and
So
masterminding with.
that was key training then that you took.
Mhm,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, you know, Obviously there's a lot of different ways to skin a chicken. I don't think that's the saying, but it sounds like it.
Right.
Uh,
I get what you mean.
Skin a cat, skin a
Skin a
chicken. I don't
cat.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
The process is get the document, take the loan application, get the documentation, analyze it, pre-approve, find a house, fund, close, right? That's a real just
Right. Just like
very
when I'm doing my sales work, I have a process.
right.
You got awareness, engagement, subscription, uh, then you got enrollment and excite and ascend and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So it's just the same kind of thing,
Same
but
kind of
you're
thing.
applying it to being a loan officer.
Exactly. And, then getting to mastermind with the coaches and the other students within the core, that's really where we begin to define that process more, to make
Hmm.
it more customer centric, to
Right.
make it so our clients don't have a bad experience. Um, and so that's really, I think, where that blossomed. And, even to this day, I feel like when I first got into the core back in 16, like there were major changes that I made to my business. And then since then, I still go to all of those masterminds. I still go to the summits that they have. I'm still a student. I'm still trying to grow and tweak and make that process better
Uh-huh.
as we go, because I believe that a happy client is also a referring client. If they
Right.
are
Yeah.
happy,
Well,
just like
hey,
me, just like you, if I am happy with a service that I had, then I'm going to refer.
right.
And so it's kind of twofold. I want them to be happy just because I want them to be happy, but I also want them to be happy so that if somebody comes along that needs my services, they're like, oh my gosh, you have to use Tobie. She's the best. She'll keep you updated the whole entire time, which is important because uncertainty equals anxiety. And a lot of
Mhm.
times in this process, we're just trying to manage stress and anxiety.
Yeah. Well, I having purchased a couple of houses in my time, it's yeah. I mean, when it gets down to it, because you've got so many, it's like a chessboard, and you've got all kinds of things moving
Mm-hmm.
around. And if something doesn't go the right direction, it affects everything else. And you
Yeah.
have to kind of move quickly because there's time frame. So it's
Yeah.
important to have that communication and having, making sure that whoever you're working with really knows what they're doing and can
Mm-hmm.
make, best decisions on your behalf during that process so that you get the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%
So
agree.
so it sounds like the core training you went to is sort of like Top Gun for
Mm-hmm.
law
Yeah.
officers.
Yes. Absolutely it is.
Okay, cool. So then what do you do for fun? What do you guys do for fun?
Oh gosh. So there's a few things.
We're
I
talking
love
about
to
work here so much.
I know. Right? Well, so I love to organize stuff. So I
So that's your entertainment?
yeah, my nighttime routine consists of my daily delete. And my daily delete is I go back through my camera roll because I snap pictures of so many things throughout the day. I
Uh-huh.
need to figure out what I'm keeping and what I'm moving on.
Okay.
So my daily delete.
So what do you take pictures of? Wow, that's a lot of pictures.
So I take pictures. Sometimes it could be a quote that I saw, and I have like a little a
Okay, it's like
board that
screenshots.
screenshots. It might have been a screenshot of a text I need to send, or it might be a picture one of my kids sent me. Like I got to
Okay.
go there and process all of that.
Okay.
Am I going to put it in our family yearbook? Am I going to delete it, or am I going to put it in, my little quote book, right?
Hmm.
So there's my daily delete, and I enjoy doing that. And then I do my journaling, and then I organize something for at least 15 minutes.
Okay.
And it's very mindless. Right now, I'm sorting crayons, markers, and colored pencils at home because my
Uh,
kids just threw them all in a bin together. And so I want to go through and make sure they're all. So it's just mindless sorting. And I don't
kind
know,
of,
it relieves stress.
just something
Yeah,
to do that you don't have to think about.
it's not, yeah, it's mindless.
It feels good when
Um,
it's done.
yeah, exactly. The other thing is love to camp with my family,
Okay.
and we love to go jeeping. So
Where
out
have
in
you
the
been?
desert. So we go to Anza quite a bit.
Okay. Should be
Um,
beautiful out there with the blooms this year.
we were there a few weekends ago, and it was just before like things started blooming, but we could see just the little sprouts, like the purples and the yellows starting to come out. So I know
Yeah.
it's beautiful right now. We've gone to Moab, which is the most beautiful place on earth, I do believe. We earned our first badge of honor there. It was a little sketch because there was a lot of snow on the ground, and so there was a lot of slipping and sliding. So that was a little scary for me.
Uh-huh.
But
So
we
when you
we
say
earned.
badge of honor, what does that mean?
So Jeep has these trails throughout the United States where when you get to the beginning of the trail, you check in,
Yeah.
and if you finish the trail, then you get a badge of honor, which means I did this trail.
Ah, okay.
And yeah, you climb up things with your Jeep, do some obstacles, different things like that. And I'm a chicken for sure. I don't like roller coasters. I don't like stuff like that, but I do enjoy Jeeping. Definitely was pumping the air brakes when we were like on the
You're
side of a
pushing your foot
rock.
down.
Yeah, I was like, my husband was laughing at me. I was like,
Uh,
I couldn't get any words out, but I was definitely pumping the air brakes. And so those are fun stories. And we'll plan to go some other places too. We haven't been doing it all that long. We just kind of got into the jeeping scene a couple years ago, so we're still trying to figure it all out. But it definitely is a lot of fun.
Excellent. So do you take like a motorhome and you tow the Jeep out? Yeah.
We do. We have a motorhome. We tow we actually tow one Jeep, and then we have another Jeep that usually my son drives
Mhm.
out, and then so we kind of put around with two Jeeps. We didn't take two Jeeps to Moab. We only took one, the one that could do more things.
Uh-huh.
But we've got some trips planned where we're going to take both of them.
Yeah, imagine it's nice to have two in case one
Yeah.
gets stuck.
Yes, because they both have winches, so
Uh-huh.
they could pull each other out. And believe me, either of them would be happy to pull the other one out.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time.
Yeah, it is. I get to be usually when we're in the RV together, um, I really love that because we're just there. In
Uh-huh.
our house, we tend to spread out. I'm in my office, my husband's in the family room, the kids are in their rooms or in the upstairs family room. We tend to spread out a lot. We have, obviously dinners and times that we spend together, but in the RV, we're just there for, 4 days straight, all together. And I just
Uh-huh.
love it.
Yeah, you get to know each other and
Yes.
that's the best times.
Yep. They are the
Best
best
times.
times.
No, that's really fun to hear. That I remember that brings to mind for me that when I was growing up, my mom was we had dinner together at the family, and like every night we had the formal silver and candles and music and it's like and if you weren't at dinner and you didn't have an excuse, you had some serious discussions going on because she was really even if we were having beans and weenies, you had to be there.
Yeah,
And
same
it was
here.
good. It was family time, right?
Yep,
So
it is. It
we've
is.
kind of lost that, I think, as a society today.
That is one thing that is non-negotiable for me. I don't care if we're all like, sometimes we have the eat whatever you want nights, not
Uh-huh.
often, but occasionally we will. But we're still going to eat whatever we want at the table together. I think that's just super important. We talk about every night when we're at the table, and my kids hate this. I pull up grades. We look at grades.
Uh-huh.
We look at missing assignments. We talk about what happened that day, and sometimes I even read to them, which they absolutely hate. Like
So you read to them? What do you read to them?
so, most recently, I've been reading "Chop Wood, Carry Water."
Chop wood carries. What's that about?
So, it's basically it's about the process, right? About trusting the process,
Okay.
and like doing it reminds me of the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, right?
All right.
Don't really understand why he's doing it, but he's doing it and it's going to make him great. So that's kind of the premise a little bit of Chop Wood, Carry Water, but it's a great story.
Yeah.
And I usually read a chapter. The chapters are super short, and it's just a great little book.
My dad used to read to us, and it's like he'd pull out the book. He'd read poetry. He'd pull
No,
out like Robert Frost or
yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe or somebody that, and we'd all go, Dad. But I tell you what, those were the
Yep.
best times. Those were, I still think about that. I mean, bringing that book out and reading those poems was such a
Yeah.
special thing because he's gone now, so I'll
Yeah.
never have that again. And there's lessons in those poems and in those stories that you
Mm-hmm.
just don't get anywhere else.
Yep.
So
My
that even
my
though your kids are saying, they say they hate it now, later on they'll thank you
Yep.
for that, I think.
They will. My grandmother was an English teacher, and we'd sit on the porch in her swing,
Uh-huh.
and she would read poetry to us for hours.
Oh,
And
both my parents were English majors.
okay, so there you go.
Yeah, I had no, I had, we had a library in the house.
Oh,
It
I
was
bet.
amazing. It was like, it was almost like Google, not quite, but
Yeah.
I had so much I kind of took for granted because it was always there.
Yeah.
But
Her her favorite poem was The Hellbound Train. And I don't remember who it was by. I've Googled it before. It's still out there. I read it and know that it was the one that she loved, but it was awesome. And that was the one she read. That's the one I remember the most, just because she read it a lot.
yeah, the Hellbound Train,
The
Robert Bloch.
Hellbound Train. Yep, that sounds right. It
Yeah,
was a
cool.
little dark, a little scary,
Yeah.
but she loved that poem.
So what's coming up for you for the future? What's 2023 look like? When you look in your crystal ball, what do you see?
Mm,
Is
my crystal ball is in the shop.
it all foggy?
Yeah, it's broken. I think, a lot of people ask me that question when it comes to interest rates, and
Yeah.
I think they're going down. We're trending down. I've told everybody it's not going to be a straight shot though. It's going to be like we fall off a cliff and then we plateau and it might jump back up a little bit and then
What's
we
it at
fall a little
now?
bit more. So as of right this moment, actually was just looking at it before we hopped on this call. The national average is sitting right around 6.42.
Okay.
So still in the low sixes.
Yeah. Huh.
So
It seems
yeah.
high, but it's um this my story is our first house we bought, the interest rate that we paid was 17.5%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So hey, 6.42 sounds amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anybody says, "Oh, it's so high," it's like, dude, you have no idea.
No idea. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a tough one to beat. Thank you, Jimmy Cotta.
All right.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it doesn't go back up that far. I think
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that it could, but
you don't know, right?
I,
You just don't know.
nobody
It's
knows.
so
Nobody knows.
complicated.
Even the economists that I follow, and I've followed for 20 years, they get it right 99.9% of the time, but you don't ever know for sure.
Yeah.
So I think 2023 is going to be an amazing year because the market doesn't control whether I have an amazing year or not. I control whether
Yeah,
I have an
right.
amazing year. Yep.
There's a
So
bold
I'm going to
leader.
have an amazing year. I'd already decided.
Excellent. Love that.
Yeah.
So, what's your advice for leaders in coming up and wanting to become a leader themselves? What would be your advice to them? Something you might share to someone that you really respect, that you see as someone that's up and coming.
Um, Personal growth.
Okay.
I feel like personal growth is something that you always have to be working on. For me, it's about becoming the best version of myself and then helping all the people around me become the best version of their selves. So, I'm pulling them up the mountain. They're pulling me up the mountain. One of my most favorite authors, John Maxwell, to me, he is the king of leadership. In fact, right now I'm rereading John Maxwell's
Excellent.
the Leadership Handbook. I've read it before,
Hmm.
but one of my coaches assigned it again. So a chapter a week and then doing the activities. This is this truly is a handbook to leadership.
Yeah.
Um, Another amazing book that he wrote was The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. I just finished reading that one not too long ago. And I tell you, this thing, I have probably 500 tabs in there.
Yeah.
It also has exercises and how to apply the laws of growth. And I feel like if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. There is no like, if you're not getting better, then you're not, and you're not getting worse, then you're just staying the same. If you're not getting better, you are getting worse. And David Goggins said that, which is another one of my favorite books.
Well said. Yeah, I've read that book, but going through it again the second time, third time, fourth time, I'm sure is so valuable because
Well,
there's so much in there.
there, it's funny because I went through this book, I highlighted a whole bunch of things, right?
Right.
So I've got all my highlights from my original reads through here. And where I'm at now, it just hits different. Like there are different things that I'm taking from it that I didn't take from it the first time I read it.
Right. Okay.
So,
Yeah, for sure. And you're in a different mindset every time you read it. You're at your mental capacity or your interest in learning about something is different each time. So your brain will pick up certain things depending on what your needs are at that moment,
yeah,
and you'll be able to apply those and make them real for yourself.
yeah.
So, um, so what do you see for? I had a question I was going to ask. Um, so where are you headed now with your leadership? Like you have this process that you've got,
Mm-hmm.
and you're reading. I remember what it was. You got a coach. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned you got a coach, and that brought to mind for me like three pillars that I learned the other day. One pillar is a plan. One pillar are tools, and the other pillar is support.
Mm-hmm.
And you seem to be right on with all three of those. And what most people miss, and what I've missed in the past from time to time, is the support. Where I think, well, I can do it on my own. I don't need a coach. I don't need a trainer. I don't need a mentor. And I think that's a mistake.
I do too.
So obviously you do because you have the horsepower to make sure that you've got the right resources and support to help you be successful. And then you're doing the work
Yes.
that makes it hard. That's the tough part, is getting it all done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and making it all happen, make it smooth.
Yeah. And still having life balance, right? Because we
Still
definitely
having the
need that.
life balance. Yeah, you got the family and the kids, and you want to keep all that going. Being married for 23 years,
Yeah.
all this doesn't just happen, right?
It doesn't. And it takes a lot of work. It's just, um, for
Squeezing
me,
fun in there,
yeah, and fun, right?
organizing crowds.
Yeah, organizing crayons. And mind you, my kids don't even use crayons anymore. I was driving to work this morning thinking like, why don't I just throw them all out? But I don't know. We have younger nieces and nephew. I'm sure we'll need a bucket of crayons at some point.
Yeah.
But I do, there's self-discipline, there's um, accountability. And I think self-discipline can take you so far, and you still have to then continue to have that self-discipline, but you have to pair it with accountability, which is really where that support comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly have been so fortunate with the core. My husband is just my biggest fan, my biggest supporter. And I told him the other day, I said, you always push me to be the best version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like for him, there's no excuses, right? He's prior military as well, and he is still very military. And, this morning we were at the gym, and there's this one exercise that I absolutely hate to do. I literally just got proficient at 3 sets of 15. He's like, we're going to do two more. And I'm like, okay. you know and then I've got my coaches also supporting and pushing me and holding me accountable and helping me be that best version of myself. So I'm really lucky when it comes to that. I've got some great people in my life that are, you know they are leaders that are, you know they're pulling me up the mountain, right?
Mm.
And one of the very first chapter in the leadership handbook that I'd forgotten about, it was if you're lonely at the top, then you're doing it wrong, right? And it just, it spoke volumes about the way that I, love on and treat my team members, but also how my leadership loves on and treats me and helps me and our, personal friends and different things like that. So coaching is definitely important. You need people in your corner rooting for you.
Excellent. Yeah, setting yourself up for success, right?
Yep.
Yeah, surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah. And you have to seek out those people. Very few times when they actually just pop into your life. Occasionally, yes, but you do have to seek them out sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. Sounds like you've got everything moving along.
Yes,
That's
I
great.
try.
Um, any comments, any last things you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
No, thank you so much for having me, Jim. We met almost a year ago, and I've enjoyed getting to know you. I was super honored that you mentioned, coming on your podcast. So thank you for having me.
Oh yeah.
And
Thanks for
it's
being
always
on.
fun. Yeah, it's always fun to, just kind of talk through things and all that good stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate your time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll sign off and we'll see you on the next episode.
Right. Bye.